What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. So I will be making schedule predictions for every single Power 5 team in college football for this upcoming season. And I'll also do a subsequent conference standings video once I finish every team in a specific conference, just as a synopsis of all of my current schedule predictions. Those will be coming out later on in August as we get closer to the start of the season once I finish up all of these individual ones, of which there are a lot to get to. So there will be a lot of content coming your way soon. So be on the lookout for that. Anyway, though, let's go ahead and get into the Pitt Panthers schedule predictions. Just so some quick thoughts here on the Pitt program heading into 2022. And this was a real surprise team from last year. They kind of came out of nowhere. They shocked the whole conference behind Kenny Pickett and Jordan Addison. However, Pickett now plays for the Steelers, and Addison has transferred to USC. So some people may overlook Pitt now, but Pitt had an elite defense, statistically speaking at least, last season, and they return everybody on it. So if anything, they should be even better this upcoming season defensively. And while I do feel that their numbers were just slightly inflated last year, they are undoubtedly one of the best defenses in the conference. You add in Keaton Slovis at quarterback, and the offense has a lot of potential there as well. So while they may not end up as good as last year, Pitt is no slouch. It has the makings to be a very, very good team again in 2022. Anybody who doesn't think that needs to wake up a little bit, because Pitt might surprise you again. So let's go ahead and look at some of the games that aren't really worth talking about just because the opponents don't have much of a chance at winning, barring something catastrophic. And those games are Western Michigan and Rhode Island. Neither one of those teams has much hope, to be honest. So Pitt opens up the season on a Thursday, September 1st, against West Virginia. 7 o'clock game. Very interesting. Pitt gets the game at home, and West Virginia is going to be a very good team as well next year. I think it's a good matchup for Pitt. I think both teams are pretty evenly matched, and it's one where I am excited to see how it plays out because, again, things are pretty evenly matched teams there. I think it's going to be very interesting to watch. I'm definitely excited for that one. I think Pitt is the better team of the two, just ever so slightly. I think they are the better team of the two. I think their defense and all the experience on it is going to be huge here, and I think they're going to get the win against West Virginia, but definitely a losable game, definitely one you're going to want to keep an eye on, and definitely an exciting way to start the season if you're a neutral observer, just to see Pitt and West Virginia go at it there. I like seeing those big out-of-conference games to start the year off, but I'm going to go with Pitt in that one. And then week 2, they play Tennessee, and they get Tennessee at home, and they beat Tennessee in Tennessee last year, but that was almost entirely due to Tennessee's quarterback situation. They were missing wide open throws left and right, and Tennessee, I think, is going to be a much improved team heading into this upcoming year. And while Pitt is going to be very good again, I don't think they're going to be able to come in here, or I don't think they're going to be able to beat Tennessee. Even at home, I think Tennessee's offense is going to be way too much of a problem at this point. Even though Pitt's defense is going to be very good, and I also think Tennessee's defense is going to be much improved. It's a close game. It is a very close game. It is one that could go either way. I'm another one out of conference early on in the year for Pitt that I'm very excited about. I'm very interested in seeing how it plays out, but it's one that I'm going to have to side with Tennessee on. Then the next game we're going to talk about is Georgia Tech at the around the midpoint of the season. They get them at home as well, and Georgia Tech is just not a very good team. They're not in the same category as Pitt. Pitt's going to win that game probably by 3 scores. Now, Georgia Tech may fight them. They may hang around, especially early on in that first half, but they're not going to be able to win that game, and that's one I fully expect Pitt to get a solid win in. Follow that up with a Virginia Tech game, and Virginia Tech is a team that's, they're decent. They're middling, but they're not quite as good as Pitt, in my opinion. Now, this one is a much closer game than the Georgia Tech game, I think. But I think Pitt is still a little bit better. They get them at home. So I'm going to side with Pitt here, and I think Pitt's experienced defense is going to be a huge advantage in a lot of these games, especially in the early to middle points of the season. I think the experience on that defense is going to loom very large here. So I have Pitt getting the win against Virginia Tech as well. And then coming off of a bye week for the next one, they play Louisville. They go on the road. And I know they're coming off of a bye, and I think they're probably a little bit better than Louisville, but I think on the road at Louisville, I think Louisville's offense is explosive. They have a little bit of a look-ahead situation against North Carolina the following week. I'm going to say Louisville gets an upset here. The teams are very closely matched. I think they're going to end up with very similar records. I'm going to say Louisville gets a big upset here, one that Pitt could very well win. And again, that experienced defense could end up being the real X factor here. But I'm very confident in Louisville next year. I have a lot of hope for them. I think their offense in particular is going to be very exciting. They're going to be very well coached, very disciplined team. I have them getting the upset win there against Pitt, mainly due to being at home as well. Next game up is at North Carolina, and this is one that I think North Carolina is just a better team than them, and it's not by a huge margin, but it is by a decent margin, and Pitt could very well win this game. But North Carolina, like I said, I think they're a little bit better. They're at home. They're going to have a lot of momentum at this point. North Carolina is coming off of a bye heading into this game, if I remember correctly. And so I think North Carolina gets a win too. And so you see a little bit of a losing slide there for Pitt. They lose 2 in a row. I just think that North Carolina is just a little bit better than Pitt. And it's close. Pitt could win both of those games against Louisville and North Carolina. But I'm going to go with North Carolina in that one. Next up is Syracuse, and Pitt's going to beat Syracuse. It is what it is. Syracuse is not very good. Pitt's going to win that game. Sorry, Syracuse fans, if you're out there. It is not a very good football team. It is what it is. Pitt is a much better football team than Syracuse at this point. Got Pitt winning that one. Then they go at Virginia, and it's one where Virginia, I almost feel bad for them at this point because they're a decent team. They're a pretty good team, but they aren't as good as a lot of the other teams in the conference. They're not as good as Pitt, and I think Pitt is probably going to come in here and get a win. It's a game that Virginia could very well win, though. It's a game that Virginia is going to be competitive in. It's not an easy game. It's not one that you can just ignore. But again, I still think Pitt goes in there, they get the win. The experience factor is going to be huge. I think by this point, the offense is going to be rolling a lot more, and they're going to be much more comfortable with a new quarterback and a new number 1 receiver and all. So I think Pitt goes in there, gets a big win against Virginia. Then Duke, they get Duke at home. It's the same as the Syracuse story. Duke's just not a very good football team. Duke doesn't have much hope in this game. It's really not worth talking about, to be honest. I probably should have put it in the ignore category just because there's not much to say there. Duke doesn't have much of any hope in that game. And then they end the season with a very tough game at Miami, and Miami is a team that I am very high on next year. I think Cristobal has them heading in the right direction. I think Tyler Van Dyke is definitely going to be the better quarterback in this game, and being at home for Miami is a big help as well. It's one that Pitt could very well win. It's one that, especially if things have gone their way through the season, they have a little more momentum, Pitt could very, very well win this game. And it's not one that I want to just gloss over and make like Miami's definitely going to win. But I do think Miami is the better team. I think by the end of the season, they're going to be really focused in, have a lot of things rolling their way. And so I'm gonna say Miami gets the win there and sort of caps off Pitt's season with a tough loss. But it is what it is. Pitt, they lost their star quarterback. They lost their star receiver. I know that the defense is going to be very good. You have to expect to take some level of a step back, though, when you lose a Heisman hopeful like that at quarterback. And so I have them losing there to Miami. And so that would Pitt 8-4 on the season, and that is a respectable record. It might not be quite what the fans want, but like I said, when you lose a Heisman-level quarterback, you lose the best receiver in the country, you have to expect some level of a step back, to be honest. And an 8-4 season is still a really good record to have, especially for considering what Pitt has been. For 8-4 to be considered a step backwards is really indicative that the program is heading in a good direction. An 8-4 season is very good for them. And it could end up a little bit better if they manage to beat teams like North Carolina or Miami or Louisville, could push them into that 9-10 win range again. And while that is very possible, I just don't think Pitt's going to be able to do it. I just see Pitt being not quite good enough to pull off those wins. So I settled with 8-4 in them. It's still a very good record. They're still a very good team. They can definitely make some noise in the ACC next season. They should not be taken lightly by any means. Anyway, that'll do it for this one. Let me know down below in the comment section where you agree and or disagree with me on the Pitt schedule in 2022. Tell me what record you think they're going to have next year and who, if anybody, they're going to lose to. Also, if you made it this far in the video, be sure to go ahead and leave a like and subscribe to the channel for more college football content in the future because, like I said, I'm going to be putting out all of these individual schedule predictions, and it's going to be a lot of content coming related to college football content here. And then you're going to have the synopsis videos at the end of the season as well. So be on the lookout for all that stuff. Check out some of my other stuff if you haven't already. Thank you all so much for watching, and I'll see you guys next time.